We're surrounded by these invisible networks. Power lines humming over our heads, gas pipes running right under our feet. We honestly don't even think about them until they fail. Today, we're going to pull back the curtain on the silent AI-powered revolution that's working around the clock to protect these critical lifelines, and by doing that, protecting all of us.
Okay, I want you to picture this. The year is 2025. Typhoon Danis is just ripping across the country. The power is out everywhere, and a man named Huang is worried sick about his 89-year-old mother. Her house is pitch black, so he does what any caring son would do. He lights about a dozen candles to light her way. These are his words, just a simple, loving act. But here's where that act of kindness took a tragic turn. Those fierce typhoon winds blew the candles right over. They ignited some tissues, and that old wooden house was just engulfed in flames almost instantly. It's a completely devastating example of how a simple power outage can spiral into a life-or-death crisis in just a matter of moments.
And that wasn't an isolated tragedy. In another town, during that very same storm, a local village chief, a man with a chronic illness, he depended on a respirator to sleep. When the power went out, his machine just stopped. By the time his family found him, it was just too late. See, these aren't just statistics. They are the real human consequences when our basic infrastructure fails us.
So these really personal, heartbreaking stories, they point to a much, much bigger picture. This vast, hidden network of lifelines that our entire modern world is built on.
I mean, just think about it for a second. Thousands upon thousands of kilometers of high-pressure gas pipelines and high-voltage power lines. They are literally the arteries and veins of our society. It's a circulatory system that delivers the energy we need to live, to work, to stay safe. But this system is incredibly complex, and as we've just seen, it's also surprisingly fragile. So what exactly puts these lifelines at risk? Well, the threats really come from three main places. First, you've got the big stuff, right? Natural disasters. We're talking earthquakes, typhoons, things that can just physically shred the infrastructure. Second, there's just simple equipment degradation. Pipes get rusty, parts get old, and they just fail. And third, you have human factors, and that's everything from a construction crew accidentally digging in the wrong spot to simple mistakes by operators. Now this is really interesting. This data from the first half of 2025 gives us a great snapshot of what pipeline operators are dealing with every single day. So yeah, actual leaks make up about a third of all the incidents. But look at this. Unknown odors and false alarms, together that's more than half of all the calls they get. It just shows you the constant state of high alert these teams are in and the huge challenge of sorting the real dangers from all the noise.
For decades, we've basically been in this constant race, trying to stay one step ahead of these failures. And our methods for managing all these risks, well, they've been evolving right alongside the technology.
And this timeline really shows just how fast things have changed. I mean, back in 2014, it was all about just getting some basic management systems in place. Now fast forward just 10 years, and we are entering the era of AI. And the future goal? It's something called digital twins, which is basically creating perfect virtual copies of our physical infrastructure. This would let us simulate disasters and test our responses in a totally safe virtual world before they ever happen for real. How cool is that? Before AI, one of the most advanced tools was this thing called the intelligent pig. And no, it's not an animal. It's a device that actually travels inside pipelines to inspect them. But the whole process was a massive job. You had to do ground surveys, clean out the entire pipe just to get it ready, analyze tons of data, and then, finally, physically dig up the pipe to see if there's actually a problem. It's effective, for sure, but man, is it slow, expensive, and you're always reacting to a problem that's already there. We needed something smarter.
And that smarter, faster way, it's here. We are now equipping our infrastructure with an AI lifeguard, an intelligent system that's designed to see trouble coming long before it ever becomes a disaster.
So what does this AI toolkit actually look like? Well, the most important thing to know is that it's not just one thing. It's a whole suite of applications, from predicting when things might fail and spotting tiny anomalies to automating inspections and just making the whole system run better.
Let's make this real. Let's talk about predictive maintenance. The old way of doing things was the break-fix model. You wait for something to break, then you scramble to fix it. AI completely flips that on its head. It crunches years of performance data, sensor readings, even weather patterns to predict when a specific part, like a valve on a gas line, is likely to fail. This lets engineers schedule a repair before it breaks, preventing a disaster and a costly shutdown.
Okay, but what about the threats you can't predict? Well, that's where anomaly detection comes in, and it's so cool.
Just imagine an AI watching thousands of data points across the entire network, 24/7. It learns what normal looks like. The second it spots a tiny, tiny deviation, like a minuscule pressure drop that could signal a new pinhole leak, it flags it instantly. That's something a human operator watching a dozen screens might miss for hours.
And the system doesn't just stop with a digital alert. This is where it gets really futuristic. Once an anomaly is flagged, an AI-powered drone can be sent to the exact GPS coordinates. Using high-def cameras and image recognition, it can visually inspect the pipeline from the air, spotting signs of rust or maybe ground that's been disturbed. This gives operators a complete picture, a data anomaly confirmed with visual proof, all within minutes, not days. It's an absolute game changer.
Now, all this incredible technology is, well, it's amazing, but it's only one piece of the puzzle. You see, the ultimate goal isn't just to build smarter pipes and wires, but to build stronger, more resilient communities that are ready for any storm.
And we can't ever forget why this matters so much. This number, 3,239, that is the minimum number of people just in Taiwan who rely on at-home medical devices like respirators. For them, a power outage isn't some inconvenience, it is an immediate, life-threatening emergency.
Because you see, true resilience, it's really built on 3 pillars. It starts with self-help. That's what each of us does to prepare. Then there's mutual help, neighbors checking on each other, community groups organizing. And finally, you have public aid. That's the official response. AI and smart tech are supercharging that public aid pillar, but they can never, ever replace the human connection of the first two. A strong community is and always will be our ultimate defense.
So, I'll just leave you with this question. The technology that protects our infrastructure is advancing at an incredible pace. Our lifelines are, without a doubt, getting smarter. But the real test, the real question is, are we, as individuals and as communities, keeping pace by becoming more prepared, more connected, and ultimately more resilient?